Hey, Shakita, can you hear me now? Hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, I don't know why this thing was hold on a second. Give me a second. Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Make sure let me know if you hear me now. I hate that I've been talking this whole time and okay, good, good. Okay. So sorry about that. I saw a few other people were on and then they kind of popped off. And maybe that was the reason because I was just sitting here kind of talking with no with no sound. But anyhow, what I was saying was what I really hope to convey is that fat loss can be easy. It can be easy for this upcoming year because more than anything, I desire to help people to, get to whatever weight you're trying to get to, especially for the health benefit. So you can kind of move on and do whatever it is that you want to do with your body, with your health, with your life, really, to be honest. Um, and conceptually, fat loss is is actually quite easy. It's largely a matter of energy in, energy out. There are some things that can make it a little bit more tricky, so to speak. However, still what happens is, and we'll get into this. What happens is sometimes people feel like, well, my body is unique. My body, unlike anybody else's, holds on to fat and it won't let go. And so I can't lose fat like this person or that person. Is something wrong with me or whatever. And what I contend is there's actually nothing wrong with you. Your body is actually working the way it's supposed to work, even if it feels like it's holding on to fat. That said, what we're going to talk about today is what makes fat loss stubborn, so to speak. Okay. So we're talking about making fat loss easy. But specifically, we're going to talk about what makes fat loss stubborn, what causes stubborn with quotations fat. So let me pull this up here. Give me a second. Mm, okay. All right. So as we make fat loss easy in 2026, I want to talk about what causes stubborn fat because it is true. Even though having extra fat is largely a matter of energy in or energy input, energy output. There are situations, there are circumstances that can make it a little more difficult to burn fat. Now, this is not exhaustive. I'm not talking about all the possibilities. But I'm going to try to get into as much as I can, of course without this webinar being, forever, so to speak. All right. So, leptin resistance is the first thing I want to talk about. So, in case you don't know what leptin is one of a couple of what you call hunger hormones. So literally with your as far as like the way your body works, when you are hungry, that's largely because of a certain hormone that your body is secreting to help you to know that it's time for you to eat. Um and so you get this hormone secretion which makes you hungry, which leads you to eat. Once you eat a certain amount and your body detects whatever it does in your stomach as far as volume, then you'll get another indication by your body that you're satiated. Like, okay, we can slow down now. We have enough volume of food, so we're no longer hungry. And so your body will help you to know that you're full, as we like to say. Leptin is one of those hunger hormones. I think the other one is called ghrelin, Grelin. Leptin is a hormone that helps you to know that you are full. Okay. And leptin just so happens to be produced by the fat cells, by your body fat. Okay. So what leptin resistance is, it's kind of like insulin resistance if you've ever heard of that. With leptin resistance, you would think that if leptin is I'm full hormone, and it's made by your fat, that if you have more fat, that your body will help you to understand that it's full quicker. The thing is that may have been the case at first, but when you have excess body fat, what happens is your body starts to get resistant to its leptin. And I'm trying to think about how I can uh connect this to something else. So, like for example, with insulin resistance, insulin is the hormone that your body secretes whenever there's detected glucose in the blood, because glucose is not, it can't be used in the blood, and it also is toxic in the blood. So your body will secrete insulin, which will allow it to pull that glucose out of the bloodstream into your body's various cells, including your fat cells. What happens is when you have a diet that's very high in insulin or very high in glucose, then your insulin is constantly being secreted, and so it gets to the point where your body actually, it starts not to work as well with your body. Your body kind of starts to need more of it to do the same function. It's the same thing with leptin resistance. Your body needs more leptin secretion for it to know that it's full, even though it seems like you would have more because of the fact that you actually have extra body fat, which produces leptin, if that makes sense. So this is one of the things that can obviously make fat loss stubborn, because it kind of ends up working in a way that you would think it doesn't. Your body literally is taking longer to register fullness because of the constantly high levels of leptin. And so it kind of ends up working against us. Okay. So that's one way. Okay. Particularly if you're dealing with a lot of excess fat. The second one, and this is one I like to talk about a lot, especially since I'm into strength training, weightlifting, calisthenics, and whatnot. Decrease muscle mass. This is huge. So when you turn about 30 years old, especially if you are inactive, if you are not doing anything really active to work your muscles, and I'm not even necessarily talking about strength training, but it can include that. But if you're very inactive, what happens is you start to experience age-related muscle loss, which is known as sarcopenia. And that means that your body is starting to, at a more rapid pace, kind of get rid of muscle tissue that's not really being used. And so this is, if I'm not mistaken, there's a somewhat linear increase in sarcopenia from the moment you turn 30 throughout the rest of your life. It actually may increase. It does increase. As a matter of fact, as you get older. In other words, the older you get and the longer you are inactive, the more rapid your muscle loss, becomes. Now, this is not just an aesthetic issue. In other words, it's not just you're going to become, you know, skinny and not have muscle and all this kind of stuff, or weak. What happens is, one, from the obvious physical standpoint, as you know, you will be able to tell whenever your muscle has decreased, because your muscles become more loose and, kind of not firm, that type of deal, because your muscles are decreasing in size and then not being replaced with fat. But there is, if you've ever had like a marbled steak, there is like a marbling of the muscle, especially as you get older and you're not using fat and you have an improper diet. Also, another thing that happens is that we talked about insulin before. Your muscle is, some people call it like a glucose sink, which means that, like when your body secretes insulin and pulls it into your body's cells, one of the types of cells it pulls a lot of glucose into is your muscle tissue. And muscle is a very metabolically active tissue, which means that it takes a lot of energy to maintain it. So your muscle is actually a very effective glucose sink, as far as like how much glucose it pulls out of your bloodstream for your body. So if you have less muscle, then that means that you have less of a tissue that will help to pull that extra energy in rather than it going to your fat cells. Okay. So less muscle means more fat automatically. Muscle requires more energy to maintain, so it will burn fat. But when you have less muscle, then that means more of that glucose is going to get stored in your fat, and it also means you have less muscle to actually burn energy automatically just by its presence, if that makes sense. If you are not engaged in a strength training program, I'm not talking about you going and lifting the gym, lifting all kind of huge heavy weights, even though there is a place for lifting heavy weight, but it's not required for you to do that. If you're not doing some sort of strength training or to the very least being active, then you are losing, and you're over the age of 30, 40, whatever, you're losing muscle mass and it is working against you. It's making it harder for you to lose fat. Undoubtedly, hands down. And thankfully, a lot of science and sports medicine is really kind of like bringing light to this now, especially for ladies, because for such a long time, strength training and muscle was kind of seen as like a guy's thing, but we all have muscle. And there's a lot of fear, in with ladies of, if I were to ever, touch a weight, then I'm going to get bulky and whatnot. There's no need to be concerned about anything like that, because usually when people, even with guys too, but when ladies are really bulky and really muscular, like people who are competitive in bodybuilding, they're having to take something to get that way. Like literally, your hormone profile has to be very different to get bulky from weightlifting. And typically, lifting weights or strength training is going to actually sculpt your physique. It's going to make it sculpted in a way that you actually more than likely would be very much in favor of. It enhances who you are and how your body is. Okay, but before lest I get into go down a rabbit hole, we'll keep on going. So number two, decrease muscle mass. All right. Number three, there are certain health conditions that can contribute to stubborn fat. Okay. And so when I talk about certain health conditions, I'm talking about stuff like hypothyroidism. I'm talking about Cushing's syndrome. There's something else specific to ladies called PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And a couple of other things like that. Sometimes somebody might have something with their pituitary gland or stuff like that. But these are very, very specific health conditions that can cause people to hold on to fat. So, like with hypothyroidism, your thyroid, which is located somewhere here in your throat, um, it has various hormones that like affect your metabolism that are secreted. And with hypothyroidism, what happens is there's not enough of a production of one of the thyroid hormones. I think at least one of the thyroid hormones. And what happens is it causes your body to kind of move in the sluggish direction. So you tend to gain weight. You tend to be, um, tired. You tend to, a lot of different things that kind of like go along the lines of like your body kind of slowing down and, you not having the energy. There is also something called hyperthyroidism, where you're secreting too much thyroid hormone, and that causes the opposite weight loss. It might cause, your eyes to be more pronounced and everything. And, you're kind of like, maybe your breathing is affected, like maybe your heart rate is faster than normal, different things like that. But hypothyroidism is one of those things that can cause you to actually hold on to fat a bit. And it's yeah, so that could be something, but you would have to know, from your doctor if you're dealing with something like that. Cushing's. So Cushing syndrome is a syndrome that's related to your body being exposed to cortisol, a lot of cortisol for an extended period of time. In other words, like if you're stressed out a lot, and because cortisol is like that hormone, one of those hormones that's secreted to kind of help you to kind of pick you up for a certain kind of situations. But when you're chronically stressed, then you're constantly exposed to cortisol, and we're not designed to be exposed to that hormone constantly like that. And so it can also cause various things, including weight gain. Okay. And so sometimes, you'll need to know that from your doctor to see. PCOS. So that's a hormonal um issue. And a lot of hormonal things can contribute to weight gain. That even is part of, there's a lot of, talk about how weight loss can be more difficult for ladies, and it's true. It is specifically because of the hormonal profile, our difference in hormonal profiles, and like with ladies, it actually is, just by virtue of being mothers and stuff like that. Like your body in certain circumstances tends to favor fat, for the purpose of, like, having children and different things that guys just don't do. And so in certain ways your body can be in favor of fat more so than ours, and we have higher testosterone, which can also in and of itself kind of make it easier for us to gain um muscle and lose fat. So there is truth to that. But PCOS is one of those things where there's an imbalance in hormones that leads to certain kind of, health issues. But among the other issues are fat gain. Okay. And it can kind of make it harder to lose fat. Now, I'm saying all these things, but we're going somewhere because there are things you can still do. Okay. Now, make sure as I'm talking about this, as you're thinking about these things, always remember this too. Before you start anything, new with your lifestyle, diet, or whatever, it's always wise and encouraged to check with your doctor or physician. Okay. All right. Number 4 is your gut microbiome. So, in case you don't know what I mean by that, your gut, stomach, intestines, all that kind of stuff, your gut is full of bacteria. I've heard some people say that you're more of a you have more bacteria in your body than you do human cells, which is like mind blowing. But you have a lot of that bacteria in your gut for the purpose of helping you to digest food and, well, mainly for food digestion and things like that. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of all that they do. But what happens is when you are dealing with excess fat, say for example, you gain 30 pounds over 15, 20 years, your gut microbiome has actually changed in such a way, uh, first of all, because of the fact that you have gained that weight, it has changed. And it's changed in such a way that it makes it more favorable to holding on to that particular fat because it's like your body kind of adjust, it kind of gets used to, people talk about what's called set point. Your body kind of like gets to this different set point. So maybe you were like 30 pounds lighter some years ago, and your microbiome was a certain way. Then you got these 30 years later, your microbiome, in other words, the makeup of the bacteria in your body has shifted. It's totally different. Now this is this might seem a little gross, but I'm just going to say it anyway. So there have been studies where people have um actually taken like the stool of somebody who is at a certain healthy weight and infused it into the gut of somebody who needed to lose weight. And I think most of the studies are kind of inclusive, but some even suggest somewhat of a weight loss effect, which again, do your research on that, but that could suggest that your gut microbiome in and of itself could contribute to fat gain or fat loss. Now, again, as I'm saying here, your gut, the makeup of the bacteria in your gut changes whenever your body has shifts in weight like that. Okay. And um, so that makes a difference again because what happens is it shifts according to like wherever you are. Your body, and it's amazing to me. Your body is always kind of responding to whatever you do. Our bodies are like really incredible. So, a lot of times we kind of look at our bodies as our enemies or whatever, but we're the ones who actually are kind of telling it what to do. So not only in like, for example, the fact I'm saying these words because I'm telling myself to say the words, I'm moving my arms, my fingers, whatever because I'm telling myself to do these things. You tell your body to do different things by the foods that you eat, by the activities that you take part in, by the emotions you feel. So your body really is this amazing response tool that's always waiting, always listening. And so you do different kind of things, you create new habits, then your body will adjust and shift to whatever it is you consistently do. Okay? And so that's very important to take note of. And that's how even here with your gut microbiome, your body will kind of shift in response to whatever it is that you're consistently doing. All right. Now, all of this said, most of the issues that make our bodies hold on to fat can be resolved by diet, exercise, and your overall lifestyle. Okay. Most of them can be resolved by that. Because again, of course, we talked about certain health issues like thyroidism and whatnot. Some of these, well, always remember this too. I'm having a lot of thoughts as I'm kind of going through this, so please forgive me, but always remember this as well. Everything has a reason. Nothing just randomly occurs. Nothing does. Just the way that God created this world, the way that stuff works, there's always a reason for something. It doesn't just happen randomly. And a lot of times, a lot of the issues that we deal with have to do with our body's fundamental needs not being met. Okay. And so that leads to this slide we have here, which is again saying that most issues that we have can be resolved by diet, exercise, and lifestyle. Why? Because of the fact they tend to be contributed to, they tend to be caused by something with diet, exercise, and lifestyle. Okay. Now, we talked, for example, about leptin resistance in the beginning about how the body can become resistant to its own leptin because there's so much leptin being produced by the excess fat that your body kind of stops responding to it in the same way. But if you eat a certain way that allows your body to access its fat storage and you incorporate also additional specific activity, then you can start to get those fat levels down. And then your body will kind of start to not secrete as much leptin and those full signals, those I'm full signals can start to work again in a more proper manner. And so then your leptin will actually work for you rather than against you in the sense of your body no longer really responding to it the right way. Okay. Even insulin resistance, which we talked about a little bit. Your body literally is getting flooded with its own insulin so much that you stay in what's called fat gain mode. And then your body starts to resist its own insulin, which means that now you kind of start to move even to into pre-diabetes, diabetes, stuff like that, which is causing damage to your body. But but insulin secretion, constant insulin secretion, is typically caused by eating a whole lot of processed foods, whole lot of sugar and stuff like that. And so it's keeping your blood sugar up, so it's keeping your insulin up. High insulin means you're in fat gain mode. As long as your insulin is up, you are pulling glucose into your fat. Okay. So if you can eat in such a way that you can bring that glucose in your blood down, decrease your body's need to secrete insulin, then what happens is you finally start to get to a place where your insulin is low, where your body can actually tap into its own fat storage. Remember, as I've talked about recently, fat is All it is energy. It's not evil. It's not a bad guy. It's energy. Your body is wonderful in the fact that it actually takes fat. It takes extra energy. It's like, we're gonna take this for a time of famine. The only thing is we don't tend to have any times where we chill from food because we've been encouraged to eat 4, 5, 6 meals a day. Not only that, but certain kind of food, junk food, stuff that is like just making our bodies just do all kind of stuff. Okay. And so and then on top of that, those foods are addictive too. But if you're like eating in such a way that your body can actually access its own energy, and then couple that with the right kind of exercise, which is going to be, yes, some cardio. And I've kind of changed my mindset on cardio to a degree. But cardio is great. It's just that you need to also make sure you incorporate a lot of strength training, whether it be my favorite, which is body weight exercise, calisthenics, or lifting weights, which I also like to do. Something that's going to stimulate your muscles to actually grow, or at least to kind of keep your muscle tissue, whatever existing muscle tissue you have. And then you address other things, lifestyle issues such as making sure you get enough sleep, not living doing whatever you can to decrease the stress in your life. Um, different things like that. If you'll do those things, then I don't care who you are, you can decrease your fat. I know a lot of people, and they've told me a lot of people feel like that fat just won't let go. It just got a grip on them and it won't let go. But your body cannot supersede the laws of thermodynamics. Your body just can't create its own energy. Your body works a certain way. It works a certain way, so it has to, when you give it the right conditions, it has to access its own fat, contrary to what some people think, contrary to what some people are told. Okay. Now, I say all that to say this. I've been talking about this 30-day challenge that I created, where I have put together eating strategies, exercise videos that I've created that can be done at home, at the gym, at the park, whatever, as well as like a very basic cardio schedule for beginners that I challenge you to do for 30 days. And it's actually sectioned off into four different sections, so to speak. Days 1 through 7, 8 through 14, 9 through 21, and then I think 22 through 30. To challenge you to dedicate 30 days to these habit formations that are going to help you to lose weight healthily, help you to lose it permanently, um, again, so that you can move on with your life. But really to challenge you to see that you can indeed lose the fat. Okay. So this is something I put together for those who are actually interested in this. I encourage you to start it sooner rather than later. We're here right on the edge of 2026, here before the dawn of 2026 rather. And a lot of people are going to wait to get started on different things once the year turns, which is cool. But I challenge you, if you're really serious about this stuff, to get started beforehand. Now, so I've actually made this 49 for those who actually purchased it in 2025, and it will go up in 2026. Um, but if you're really serious about this stuff, I have everything already packaged together. So all the guesswork is taken out. Eating, strength training, cardio. It's for beginner level, and it's 30 days to challenge you to go ahead and like take the rest of your life back and do this thing. You can use the QR code to get it, or I'll post the link here in a second in the chat. So that's that, and I do want to open the floor here now for any questions, if there are any. If there's any, hold on a second. So if there's any sort of questions about anything that we talked about here, that I can clarify or anything like that, I'm posting this link here in the chat. Okay. Anything that I can clarify to kind of make what I've talked about concerning stubborn fat, make it more clear, explain it better, anything like that. More than anything, as we wait here a couple minutes, more than anything, I want you to understand that fat can be lost, and fat is not it's not evil. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It's there for a reason, and it can be lost if you give the right conditions. So this is something else I realized as well. So I'm certified personal trainer. I love to exercise. I love to lift weights. As a matter of fact, I not too long ago got from the gym. But I realized from my vantage point, from my perspective, that a lot of this stuff is pretty it's easy. Not only is it easy, it's fun too. The diet part tends to be more challenging, and that's real. It's more challenging for me than the exercise part. Um, but because I've kind of done a lot of different kind of experiments, even on myself over the years, I understand how quickly the body will shift if you give it the right conditions. But I realize with that said, that a lot of people who have been who may not necessarily be certified personal trainers and whatnot, it can seem a lot more daunting than it really is. So that's why I really want to encourage people more than anything. The fat can be lost. And if you'll just kind of dedicate yourself just for a little while to some habit change, consistently providing your body with different things that it needs to actually lose fat, then you'll be able to see it after you've been doing it for a while. But on the front side of it, it can seem very difficult, which I acknowledge. So yeah. But any questions, anything that I can make more clear, anything I can elaborate on. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Yeah. Okay. All right. So good. So I appreciate those of you who stuck around to listen, take out some time in your day. Hopefully something was said that helps you to have more hope, more enthusiasm about going into 2026 and actually going ahead and getting trim, slim, fit, and being able to move on with your life in your body exactly the way you want it to be, your health exactly the way you want it to be. Just keep that alive. Keep it alive. That what you want is possible and it's totally attainable if you give your body the proper conditions. Okay. All right. So that's enough from me, y'all. Thank y'all again for joining in. And I'm probably gonna be doing a few more webinars like this. So if you enjoyed this, there's more to come. Thank y'all. Take care. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. All right, y'all take care and have a good one.